I found my daughter sleeping on the street. Her husband had sold their home and run off with his mistress. I took her in. The next morning, I went to their luxury building, and when he opened the door, I said something he'll never forget. I found my daughter sleeping on the street at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. Not in a shelter, not couch surfing at a friend's apartment, not even in her car, on the actual street. In an alley behind a CVS on Morrison Avenue, curled between cardboard boxes and a dumpster, her winter coat pulled over her head like a makeshift tent against the rain. There was a puddle forming around her, and her jeans were soaked through. Her shoes, the expensive running shoes I'd bought her for Christmas last year, were caked in mud and what looked like motor oil. "Emma?" My voice came out strangled, barely recognizable. I'd been driving home from a late meeting, consulting work for a tech startup that had run until almost midnight, when I'd seen her, or thought I'd seen her. A flash of auburn hair, that specific shade that was so much like her mother's, the specific way she curled up when she was cold, knees to chest, arms wrapped around herself, something about the shape of her that my brain recognized even through the darkness and rain and fog. I'd slammed on the brakes so hard my seatbelt locked, pulled over illegally in a loading zone, didn't even turn off the engine, just ran back through the rain without grabbing an umbrella, without my jacket, without thinking about anything except getting to her. Now I was standing there, water streaming down my face, my dress shirt plastered to my skin, staring at my 26-year-old daughter sleeping in an alley like she was nobody, like she didn't have a father who loved her, like she didn't have a home to go to. "Emma, baby, what?" She stirred, looked up slowly like she was emerging from deep water. Her face was dirty, streaked with mud and what looked like old tears, days old, caked on her cheeks. Her eyes were hollow in a way I'd never seen before, not even when her mother died 5 years ago. This was different. That had been grief. This was despair. This was the look of someone who'd given up entirely. "Dad," her voice cracked like breaking glass. She started crying immediately, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. "He sold the house. He took everything. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to call. My phone died 2 days ago, and I couldn't. My hands were shaking as I helped her stand. She was lighter than she should be. Had to be at least 15 pounds less than the last time I'd hugged her, which was, Jesus, when was the last time I'd seen her? 6 weeks ago? 2 months? How long had this been happening? Who? I asked, even though I already knew, even though there was only one person who could have done this to her. David? She nodded, barely able to speak through the crying. He moved in with his girlfriend. Some luxury building downtown, the Riverside Towers. He showed me pictures of it while he was packing, showed me how nice it was, how much better than the house, than our house, Mom's house. Her voice broke on that. He told me I deserved nothing, that I was pathetic for thinking I had any claim to anything, that I should be grateful he didn't have me arrested for trespassing when I tried to get my things. She was shaking now, her whole body trembling with cold and shock and exhaustion. He changed the locks while I was at work. I came home and my key didn't work. There was a note taped to the door. It said, "Your belongings are in storage, unit 247. You have 30 days to collect them before they're auctioned. Don't contact me again." Something in my chest cracked, not broke. Breaking would have been cleaner. This was a splintering, a fracturing of something I'd thought was solid. This was my daughter, my only child, the little girl who'd held my hand on her first day of kindergarten, the teenager who'd called me crying after her first breakup, the young woman who'd made me so proud when she'd graduated college with honors, the woman who'd been so happy on her wedding day that she'd literally glowed, and now she was here, in an alley, sleeping in garbage, because the man she'd married had destroyed her. "How long?" My voice came out rough. "How long have you been out here?" 4 days, maybe 5. I lost track. 5 days. 5 days my daughter had been homeless and I hadn't known, hadn't checked on her, hadn't called. "Why didn't you call me?" I tried. My phone died and I didn't have money for a charger and I was too ashamed to go to someone and ask to use their phone and say, "Hi, my husband threw me out and I've been sleeping in the street. Can I please call my dad?" The words came out in a rush, defensive and broken. "Emma." I pulled her close, not caring that she was wet and dirty and probably hadn't showered in days. "You could have shown up at my door at 3 in the morning covered in blood and I would have said, 'Come in, let's fix this.' You understand that? There is nothing you could ever do or have done to you that would make me not want to help you." She sobbed into my shoulder. I felt her knees buckle and caught her, held her up, and realized she was freezing. Actually, hypothermic cold. How long had she been in this rain? "Let's get you home," I said. "Let's get you warm. We'll figure out the rest later." Something in my chest cracked. I took Emma home, my home, the house where she'd grown up, where her mother and I had raised her, where she'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway and had her first kiss on the front porch, the house she'd moved out of 3 years ago when she'd married David fucking Morrison. I ran her a hot bath, made her soup and grilled cheese, her comfort food since she was 6, put fresh sheets on her old bed, let her shower and change into clean clean clothes I'd kept from before she moved out. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted in a way that went beyond physical. But I didn't sleep. I stayed up in my kitchen, looking at Emma's phone. She'd given it to me wordlessly before going to bed, like she knew I'd need to see, like she needed me to understand what had happened, the texts she'd saved, the emails, the property records she'd printed months ago when she'd first suspected something was wrong. David had transferred the house into his name only, just his name, not joint ownership like it had been for 3 years. He'd done it 6 months ago using a forged, notarized document with Emma's signature. Emma hadn't found out until 2 weeks ago when he'd told her he wanted a divorce and that she needed to move out of her own house, the house her mother had left her, because that's what made this worse. The house hadn't been bought by Emma and David together. It had been inherited, left to Emma in her mother Catherine's will when cancer took her at 52, a beautiful craftsman-style home in northeast Portland, 3 bedrooms, recently renovated, worth about $600,000 in the current market. David had sold it for $587,000. Cash sale, quick close. The money had gone into an offshore account. She'd found the wire transfer receipts in his email. Then he'd moved into the Riverside Towers with his girlfriend Ashley, a 23-year-old pharmaceutical sales rep he'd been fucking for 18 months. She was pregnant, 5 months along, according to the ultrasound photo Emma had found on his tablet. He'd planned this for over a year, maybe longer, and Emma, my brilliant, kind, trusting daughter, had been blindsided by all of it. I sat at my kitchen table, reading through everything until 4:17 a.m. Then I made coffee and read it all again. By the time Emma woke up around noon, I had a plan. "Dad?" She shuffled into the kitchen in her old college sweatshirt, her hair still damp from another shower. "What are you thinking about?" She knew me too well, could see the calculation in my eyes. "I'm thinking," I said carefully, "that your husband made a very big mistake. It's over." Her voice was flat. "The house is sold. The money's gone. His lawyer sent papers saying I have no claim because I signed the deed transfer. I just want to move on." "Emma, look at me." She did, reluctantly. "It's not over until you get what's yours." "Dad, I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford anything. I have $847 in my bank account and a car that needs $200 in repairs. I can't fight this." "You don't have to." I pulled out my phone. "I can." I called Benjamin Caldwell. He'd handled Catherine's estate 5 years ago, was the one who'd helped us navigate probate, who'd made sure Emma inherited the house smoothly, who'd been sharp and ruthless when her mother's sister had tried to contest the will. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Thomas, it's been a while." "Ben, I need you. It's about Emma." "What happened?" I told him. All of it. The forged signature, the fraudulent deed transfer, the offshore account, the pregnant girlfriend, Emma sleeping in an alley. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Thomas, what you're describing is felony fraud, multiple counts, forgery, wire fraud, possibly theft by deception. This isn't just civil court. This is criminal." "Good. I'm serious. We can bury him completely, but it's going to get ugly." "It's already ugly, Ben. My daughter was homeless." "Okay." I heard him moving, probably grabbing a pen. "I need everything. Every document Emma has, every text message, every email. Can you get her to my office today?" "Yes. This afternoon, 2 o'clock. I'll clear my schedule." Emma was staring at me from across the kitchen table, hope and fear warring on her face. "One more thing, Ben." "What?" "Before we go full legal assault, I want to do something first. Thomas, I want to look him in the eye. I want him to know what's coming." "That's a bad idea. You could compromise the case. If you threaten him." "I won't threaten him. I'll just talk. Just let him know that I know." "Is that illegal?" Ben sighed. "No, but be careful. Don't say anything that could be construed as intimidation or harassment. Just be smart about this." "I'm always smart, Ben. That's what worries me." We met with Benjamin Caldwell at 2 p.m. His office was downtown in the U.S. Bank Tower, 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. He was 58, gray hair, wire-frame glasses, the kind of man who looked like a professor but fought like a pit bull. He spread Emma's documents across his conference table and studied them for 20 minutes without speaking. Emma sat next to me, picking at her fingernails, radiating anxiety. Finally, Ben looked up. "This is one of the clearest cases of fraud I've seen in 30 years, he said. "The forged signature alone is enough, but combined with the wire transfers, the offshore account, the timing of the sale right before asking for divorce, this is textbook financial abuse." "Can we get the money back?" Emma asked quietly. "Yes, all of it, plus damages, plus legal fees." Ben leaned forward. "But more importantly, I want to make sure David Morrison faces criminal charges. What he did to you isn't just wrong, it's illegal. He belongs in prison." Emma's hands started shaking. "Prison? He committed multiple felonies, Emma. Wire fraud carries up to 20 years. Forgery can be up to 10. Now, he won't get maximum sentences, especially if he's a first offender, but he'll do time, and he should." I watched my daughter process this. this? The woman who'd married David 3 years ago in a small ceremony at Powell Gardens. The woman who'd been so in love, so happy, so convinced she'd found her person. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Ben called Detective Laura Fisher. She was with the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit, had been investigating white-collar crime for 12 years. She came to Ben's office at 4:30 p.m., reviewed the documents, and by 5:15 p.m., she'd opened a formal investigation. The offshore account is going to be the key, she said, making notes on her tablet. If we can prove he transferred funds with the intent to hide assets during a divorce, that's wire fraud. Federal charges. The FBI will get involved. How long does this take? I asked. Depends. We need to freeze the accounts first, get warrants for his financial records, build the case. Could be a few weeks, could be a few months. She looked at Emma. You'll need to give a full statement, detailed timeline of events, copies of every communication, documentation of the forgery. I can do that, Emma said. Good. Detective Fisher stood up. I'll be in touch. Mr. Caldwell has my direct line. Call me if David tries to contact Emma or if anything else happens. After she left, Ben turned to me. You still want to go see him? Yes. Tonight? Tonight. Be careful, Thomas. He's already proven he's willing to commit fraud. He might be dangerous. He's not dangerous, I said. He's just cruel. There's a difference. I drove to the Riverside Towers at 7:23 p.m. Emma stayed at Ben's office with his paralegal, going through documents, preparing her statement. The Riverside Towers was exactly what I expected. Glass, steel, valet parking, the kind of building that screamed money and pretension. I walked past the doorman like I owned the place. Elevator to the 8th floor, apartment 8C. I stood outside for a moment, listening to voices inside. David's voice, a woman laughing, the sound of wine glasses clinking. They were celebrating. I knocked. Footsteps from inside. Quick, light, probably Ashley, then heavier ones. David. The door opened. David Morrison stood there in expensive loungewear, Lululemon joggers, and a designer hoodie that probably cost $400. His hair was styled perfectly. That effortless, but actually takes 30 minutes look. His face had that smug, satisfied expression of a man who thought he'd gotten away with something clever, like he'd won a game nobody else knew they were playing. He was holding a glass of red wine, expensive wine, judging by the shape of the glass. Behind him, I could see into the apartment. Open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture that looked like it came from a restoration hardware showroom. Everything sleek and perfect and expensive, bought with my daughter's money. Can I help you? His tone was dismissive, annoyed at being interrupted. Then recognition hit and his expression shifted from annoyance to something like alarm. Oh, Thomas. Hello, David. He recovered quickly, straightening his shoulders, putting on a mask of confidence. What do you want? To talk. We have nothing to talk about. Emma and I are done. Tell her to stop calling me. Tell her to stop harassing me. I'll get a restraining order if she doesn't stop. That was rich. Emma hadn't called him once, hadn't texted, hadn't tried to contact him at all. She'd been too busy trying to survive. She hasn't called you once, I said, keeping my voice level. Then why are you here? Because I found her sleeping on the street last night. The smug smile faltered, just for a second. Then it came back, but forced this time. That's not my problem. She's an adult. She made her choices. She didn't choose to be defrauded. I didn't defraud anyone. His voice got louder, defensive. That house was in my name. I had every legal right to sell it. She signed the papers. It's not my fault she didn't read what she was signing. Except she never signed those papers. You forged her signature. That's a lie. That's a fucking lie and you can't prove it. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone very slowly, very deliberately, letting him see exactly what I was doing. I can. My lawyer, Benjamin Caldwell, 30 years experience in estate law, filed a police complaint this afternoon. Detective Laura Fisher with the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit is very interested in your offshore accounts. So is the FBI, actually, since transferring nearly $600,000 offshore without reporting it is a federal felony. The color drained from his face, started at his forehead and worked down. I watched it happen in real time. His hand tightened on the wine glass until his knuckles went white. You're bluffing. You're just trying to scare me. Am I? I pulled up an email on my phone and showed him. Official Portland Police Bureau letterhead. Case number. Detective Fisher's name and badge number. This is the case file. Opened this afternoon at 5:47 p.m. The offshore account is already flagged. By Monday, they'll have warrants for all your financial records. His breath was coming faster now. I could see sweat starting on his forehead despite the cool evening air. Behind him, a woman appeared from the kitchen. Young, early 20s at most, blonde hair in a ponytail, very pregnant, maybe 5 or 6 months, her hand resting protectively on her swollen belly. She was wearing expensive maternity clothes. Everything about her screamed, kept woman. David? Who is this? Nobody, David snapped without looking at her. Go back inside, Ashley. But I smiled at her, the kind of smile that held absolutely no warmth, a predator's smile. I'm Emma's father. You must be the mistress. Her blue eyes widened. Her hand went to her throat. I'm not a... We're together. David David and I are in a relationship. We're having a baby. How nice. David told you Emma left him, didn't he? That she was crazy, unstable, that she couldn't handle his success, that their marriage was over long before you came into the picture? Ashley's face flickered with uncertainty. Her eyes darted to David, looking for confirmation, for reassurance. He said the marriage had been over for years, that they'd just been going through the motions, that they'd grown apart, and the divorce was amicable. He lied. I stepped closer to the doorway. David moved to block me, but I wasn't actually trying to enter. I just wanted to be close enough that they both had to really look at me, really see me. He sold her house while she was at work, forged her signature on legal documents, transferred the deed into his name only, left her with nothing, not even her clothes. She was homeless, Ashley, sleeping in an alley behind a CVS for 5 days, while you two were here drinking wine in an apartment he bought with stolen money. That's not true, David's voice cracked. Don't listen to him. He's trying to break us up. He's trying to ruin us because he can't accept that Emma and I are done. I held up my phone again, showing them the bank statements Ben had prepared. These are wire transfers from the house sale, $587,000, going into an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, account number ending in 4792, opened 14 months ago, then progressive withdrawals over the past 6 months totaling $234,000, which matches exactly the down payment on this apartment. Want to see the mortgage documents? I have those too. Ashley's face had gone pale now. She looked at David with something new in her eyes. Doubt, fear. David, what is he talking about? It's complicated, David said quickly, too quickly. The house was marital property. We bought it together. I had a right to sell it. The money from the sale is half mine. We're just in a dispute about asset division. That's all this is, a bitter divorce where her father can't accept that she was a bad wife. The house was inherited, I interrupted, my voice going cold, really cold. The voice I used in business negotiations when I was done being polite. Not marital property. Emma inherited it from her mother, my wife Catherine, when she died 5 years ago. It was Emma's sole and separate property. You had no legal right to it, which is why you had to forge her signature to sell it, which is why when Detective Fisher gets the handwriting analysis back, it's going to show that the signature on the deed transfer is right-handed, even though Emma is left-handed and signs with a specific left-slanted style. You can't prove that. The forensic handwriting expert already has the documents. Results by Monday. I looked at Ashley, who was now visibly shaking. You should also know that this apartment is considered proceeds of a crime. When David is convicted, and he will be convicted, the court can seize this place as ill-gotten gains, asset forfeiture. They can take it. And you, Ashley, pregnant and innocent as you might think you are, will be looking for somewhere else to live, probably somewhere much less expensive. What? Her voice was barely a whisper. No, David, tell him that's not true. He's lying, David said, but his voice lacked conviction now. His face had gone from red to white to something grayish. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not a lawyer. No, I'm not. But Benjamin Caldwell is. So is Helen Porter, the assistant DA who'll be prosecuting your case. So are the 3 FBI agents who are currently reviewing your offshore account activity. I pulled up another document on my phone. I also know about the 18 months of affair evidence Emma has, text messages between you and Ashley, hotel receipts, the Marriott on 3rd Street, usually Thursday afternoons, the ultrasound photo you left on your tablet showing a due date that proves you got Ashley pregnant while you were still married to Emma. That shows premeditation, David, that you were planning to leave Emma while simultaneously stealing her assets so she'd have nothing and you could start fresh with Ashley. Ashley was crying now, mascara running down her face. You said your marriage was already over when we met. You said you were separated. You said, it was over, David shouted. It was basically over. I just hadn't moved out yet. He's lying to you the same way he lied to my daughter, I said to Ashley, my voice softer now, almost gentle, because she was pregnant and young and stupid, but not necessarily malicious. She was a victim too, in her way, just a different kind. The same way he'll eventually lie to you. Do you think you're special, Ashley? Do you think you're different? You're not. You're just the next Mark, the next woman who fell for his bullshit. And when he gets bored or finds someone younger or needs money, he'll do to you exactly what he did to Emma. David lunged forward, his wine glass sloshing. Get out! Get the fuck out of my apartment! Oh, I'm leaving, I said, not moving an inch, not flinching. But the police will be here soon. Detective Fisher said probably tomorrow, maybe Friday. They'll want to talk to you about the offshore accounts, about the house sale, about the forged documents. The FBI is also very interested in your tax returns. Apparently transferring that much money offshore without reporting it is its own separate felony. Treasury Department gets involved in those cases. It's not pretty. His hands were shaking so badly now he had to clench them into fists. The wine glass fell from his grip and shattered on the hardwood floor. Red wine splattered across the expensive rug, across his designer joggers, across the pristine white walls. He didn't even seem to notice. "David Morrison," I said, letting my voice go cold, really cold for the first time. "You thought my daughter was weak because she loved you. You thought you could take everything from her and she'd just accept it because she's kind and trusting. You thought I was old and wouldn't do anything to help her." I stepped closer, close enough that he could see the rage I'd been keeping controlled all day. "You were wrong on all 3 counts. I turned to walk away, then stopped. "One more thing. Emma's not homeless anymore. She's with me, safe, warm, loved. And when this is over, when you're arrested, when you lose this apartment, when the judge orders you to pay back every penny plus damages, she'll have everything you stole, plus enough to never worry about money again." Behind me, I heard Ashley start screaming, David trying to explain, her shouting about lies and money and the baby, doors slamming. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. The doors opened. I stepped inside. As they closed, I saw David stumble into the hallway, his face in his hands, his perfect new life collapsing around him. I smiled. The next morning, Detective Fisher called. "We executed the warrant, froze the offshore account. $353,000 is still there. He spent the rest on the apartment and what looks like a pretty expensive engagement ring. Is that enough to press charges?" "More than enough. The wire transfers alone are federal charges. But Thomas, there's more. We pulled his employment records. David works in commercial real estate, right?" "Yeah, senior acquisitions analyst. He's been stealing from his employer too, skimming money from deals, hiding it in the same offshore account. We're talking about another $180,000 over 3 years. My stomach dropped. Jesus. His employer has no idea yet, but they will soon. How much prison time are we looking at with the fraud against Emma, the employment theft, the offshore account, the tax evasion? He's looking at 10 to 15 years, maybe more if the prosecutor gets aggressive. I called Emma immediately. She was still at my house, had spent the morning in her old bedroom just sleeping and crying and processing. "Baby, Detective Fisher just called. They froze the account, got most of the money." "How much?" $353,000. The rest went to the apartment down payment and some jewelry. She was quiet. Then, "Is that enough for them to arrest him?" "Yes. And Emma, there's more. He was stealing from his employer too, using the same offshore account. They're going to press charges too." "Oh my God." "You didn't do this to him," I said firmly. "He did this to himself. You understand that, right? This isn't your fault." "I know. It's just, how did I not see it? How did I not know he was this person? Because you loved him, and because people like David are good at hiding who they really are." David was arrested on Friday at 9:23 a.m. at his office, in front of his boss, his co-workers, everyone. Detective Fisher called me with the details. FBI agents walked in with Portland PD, handcuffed him at his desk. His employer immediately terminated him and is pressing their own charges. He's being held on $500,000 bail. Can he make bail? Not with the offshore account frozen and the apartment under seizure. He's stuck. Ashley called Emma that afternoon. Emma put her on speaker. "I'm so sorry," Ashley sobbed. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He told me you were separated, that the divorce was amicable, that the house was his—" "Stop," Emma said quietly. "Just stop. I don't know what to do. The police came and said I have to move out, that the apartment is being seized. I'm 5 months pregnant and I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. Please, Emma. I know I was wrong, but I'm pregnant and you were sleeping with my husband for 18 months while I was working to pay our mortgage on the house he stole from me. You don't get to ask me for help." "But," Emma hung up. She looked at me, her eyes hard in a way I'd never seen. "Was that cruel?" "No, baby. That was self-preservation." The preliminary hearing was 3 weeks later. Helen Porter, the assistant district attorney, was prosecuting. She was 42, had been with the DA's office for 16 years, had a 93% conviction rate in financial crimes. She met with Emma and me the day before the hearing. "I want you to understand what's going to happen. David's lawyer, Stuart Bradshaw, expensive defense attorney, is going to try to claim the deed transfer was legitimate, that Emma knew about it and consented. But the signature is forged," Emma said. "I know, and the handwriting analysis proves it, but they'll try to create doubt. They'll say maybe you signed it and forgot. Maybe you were stressed. They'll make you seem unreliable. What do? You stay calm, you tell the truth, you don't get defensive, and you let the evidence speak for itself." The hearing was rough. Stuart Bradshaw was exactly the kind of lawyer you'd expect David to hire. Expensive suit, practiced sympathy, perfectly calibrated to seem reasonable while destroying your credibility. He asked Emma if she'd been forgetful lately, if she'd been under stress, if maybe she'd signed documents without reading them carefully. "No," Emma said firmly. "I never signed that deed transfer. I didn't even know about the sale until 2 weeks before David kicked me out." "But you were having marital problems, weren't you? Isn't it possible you were distracted?" "Objection." Ben Caldwell stood up. "Counsel is badgering the witness." "Sustained," the judge said. Bradshaw changed tactics. "Ms. Morrison, isn't it true true that you and your husband shared all financial accounts? That you both had access to all funds? No, we had a joint checking account for household expenses, but my inheritance from my mother, the house, was solely mine, and yet you let your husband live in that house for 3 years. Doesn't that suggest you considered it marital property? No, it suggests I loved him and wanted to share my home with him. That doesn't give him the right to steal it. The judge finally intervened. Mr. Bradshaw, the handwriting analysis is clear. The signature on the deed transfer doesn't match Ms. Morrison's verified signature. Unless you have evidence to contradict that analysis, I suggest you move on. Bradshaw tried a few more angles but couldn't shake Emma's testimony. The forensic evidence was too solid. At the end of the hearing, the judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. David was denied bail reduction. The judge called him a clear flight risk, given the offshore accounts and previous asset concealment. Outside the courthouse, Ben pulled me aside. David's lawyer approached me. He wants to negotiate a plea deal. What kind of deal? David pleads guilty to fraud and forgery, agrees to pay full restitution plus damages. In exchange, the prosecution recommends a lighter sentence, maybe 5 years instead of 15. What does Emma get? Her money back, all of it, plus damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and punitive damages. We're talking probably close to $900,000 total. I looked at Emma, who was standing near the courthouse steps, staring at the gray Portland sky. Let me talk to her. I walked over and sat down next to her on the steps. David's lawyer wants to make a deal, I said. She looked at me. What kind of deal? He pleads guilty, pays you back everything plus damages, gets a lighter prison sentence. How much lighter? Maybe 5 years instead of 15. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you think I should do? I think you should do whatever helps you heal. If you want him to spend 15 years in prison, I'll support that. If you want to take the deal and move on with your life, I'll support that too. I don't want to think about him anymore, she said quietly. I don't want to spend years going to trial, testifying, reliving this. I just want my money back and I want to move forward. Then we take the deal. The plea deal was finalized 2 weeks later. David Morrison pleaded guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of forgery, and 1 count of theft. He was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison with possibility of parole after 4. He was ordered to pay Emma $587,000, the full amount from the house sale, plus $200,000 in damages, plus $113,000 in legal fees and punitive damages. Total, $900,000. His employer also sued him for the embezzled funds. He'd have to pay that back, too, with interest. By the time he got out of prison, he'd be in debt for the rest of his life. Ashley left him before the sentencing, moved back to Arizona to live with her parents, had the baby, a girl, and started posting on social media about toxic relationships and red flags she'd missed. Emma blocked her on everything. 6 months after David was sentenced, Emma moved into a new house, a beautiful bungalow in Laurelhurst, 2 bedrooms, big backyard, skylights in the kitchen. She paid cash, $485,000 from her settlement. The rest went into savings and investments. I helped her move in on a Saturday in May. The sun was shining. She was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. Dad, she said as we unloaded boxes, thank you for everything, for finding me, for fighting for me, for not letting him get away with it. You don't have to thank me. That's what fathers do. Not all fathers. She hugged me tight. Mom would be proud of you. She'd be proud of you too, baby. You survived this. You're going to be okay. I know. That night, after I'd gone home, after Emma was settled in her new house, after everything was finally over, I sat in my kitchen where 6 months ago I'd read through all the evidence of David's betrayal. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Sleeping in my own house tonight. My house. Safe and sound. Love you, Dad. I smiled. Then I poured myself a bourbon and walked out to my back porch, looking up at the stars. Catherine would have handled this differently, I thought. She'd have been calmer, more diplomatic, less inclined to show up at David's apartment and scare the shit out of him. But she wasn't here anymore, and our daughter had needed protection, had needed someone to fight when she was too broken to fight for herself. I'd done that, successfully. David Morrison was in federal prison. Ashley was gone. Emma had her money back and a new home and, slowly, her life back. And every night, for the rest of his sentence, David would lie in his prison cell and think about the moment when an old man showed up at his door and destroyed his entire life in less than 5 minutes. The moment when he learned that underestimating a father's love was the biggest mistake he'd ever make. My daughter would sleep safe tonight, and every night after. That's all that mattered. That's all that ever mattered.